Well, 2025, it was an eventful year for agriculture. A number of legal issues involving everything from property rights, input regulations, and now many wondering how these developments might impact farmers and ranchers in the year ahead. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law joins us now to break down his top 10 issues from last year. Always a pleasure, Roger. Happy New Year. It's great to see you. We look forward to this look back. And boy, ag did have its share of challenges you know better than most. Today, we're starting with number 10 on your list, pesticide litigation. So give us a recap of the key cases and the issue at hand here.
Well, good to be with you, Suzanne. And what tragic news out of California with the representative. That's just awful. But what I'm talking about here is the Roundup litigation across the country. And the issue is whether federal law, the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, Rodenticide Act, preempts state label-based claims. And of course, under federal law, the states cannot impose any type of labeling requirement that is in addition to or different from the federal requirements. And so the disagreement in all of these cases, and we've had them at the state level, the federal level, all over the country, and there's a split of authority on this. The disagreement seems to center on whether a state level failure to warn lawsuit constitutes a different requirement if the EPA had already approved a label without that specific warning. And so the pesticide manufacturers don't want to get caught between a rock and a hard place here of having complied with the federal EPA requirements and then somehow coming up with a violation of a state law requirement. And as I said, there's a split of authority on this. And just last week, or the week before last, right at the end of December, the Solicitor General of the U.S. asked the U.S. Supreme Court to take up a case to clarify this. So we'll see that, I think, probably in 2026.
Yeah, and talk maybe about some of the outcomes from these cases. Is this something that is just going to have to be addressed in 2026?
I think it will be. We've got the differences in the circuit courts of opinion. The Third Circuit differs from the Ninth Circuit. We've got the Missouri cases. A lot of these cases come out of Missouri because that's where the headquarters of Bayer Monsanto is at. And so the cases originate from Missouri. And we've had some multi-million-dollar awards by the Missouri Court of Appeals, the Missouri Supreme Court, and then on to the Eighth Circuit. But like I said, the courts across the country have reached different conclusions on this particular issue. Supreme Court's going to have to clean up this issue in 2026.
For farmers, Roger, what does this mean? How do they navigate something like this with so much uncertainty and what's clear, what's not clear?
Well, it makes it real tough. In fact, the numerous states have tried to enact legislation in the past year. North Dakota, Georgia, Iowa, Florida, as well as Mississippi have come up with basically rules that would say you can't bring or you can bring a failure to warn lawsuit. Iowa, for example, would have passed blanket immunity for the pesticide manufacturers. Other states take a different tack. So you got to pay attention to the court cases as a farmer. You got to pay attention to what's happening in your state legislature. And I'll tell you, they are just all over the board on this issue. We've got to have some clarity on it in 2026.
All right, that was number 10 on your list. Before I let you go, I want to switch gears. USDA releasing per-acre payment rates for the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. Your thoughts on these rates? What do you think here?
Well, of course, the rates are going to differ wildly, and they do differ wildly based on the crop, but they're based on modeled losses for 2025. That's going to consider production costs and market price declines. And so you see a real high payment per acre for rice, for example, almost $133 per acre. And then you get to soybeans, and it's $31 per acre. Well, that's not a difference of $100, for example, because it's factoring in the input costs as well as the market losses during the year. So it's evening things out, but you got to think of this in terms of cash flow. The USDA is expecting to issue these payments at the end of February, the beginning of March. And of course, we're going to have the additional payments for the 25 crop year coming in 2026, October of 26, with the additional support payments, the increase in the base acres. So I've already been telling CPAs in late 2025 at tax seminars, be ready for this income coming in and hitting the 2026 return and have a plan in place to be able to not get your client in a bad tax position, get them in a good tax position, even though they're going to have this extra cash coming in 26.
Yeah, that is great advice. They got to prepare for that for sure. And it's good to know that this money is going to be coming in to help these folks. Roger, thank you so much, as always, and always great to have you here. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law.